I absolutely adore violent video games. The adrenaline rush of trying to perfectly kill everything in a room as fast as possible is one of my absolute favorite parts about these kinds of games. Some games that I can think of in recent years that do this really, really well are Doom Eternal, Hotline Miami, Postal 2, but today I want to talk about a game that came back out in 2020, but I forget the name of it. It was something super ambiguous like Mega Die or Super Death or... yeah, that.
ULTRAKILL, developed by Arsi, Patala, and published by New Blood Interactive to overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, and for good reason. This game absolutely fucking slaps. But what makes it so good? Well, the game's official website is devilmayquake.com, and that pretty much tells you what this game's going to be. By the way, I'm going to spoil nearly the entire game for this video, so if you care about that, this warning is for you. Before I talk about any gameplay, I want to say that this game just looks so good. A lot of indie games like to have really shitty graphics and then just call it stylistic because it looks how it was in the old days. That's just a lame excuse to half-ass textures for your game. ULTRAKILL, however, has a lot of genuine talent behind it, and some of these environments look fantastic as well as the models and textures. The game also features one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in a video game. Nearly every single track makes me want to just keep moving forward and keep killing. Some of the tracks also help me cope with some of my least favorite levels. Castlevania, I'm looking at you! But overall, it is so goddamn good. While V1 is absolutely a glass cannon, especially on higher difficulties, the game handles that in a very unique way. The biggest mechanic of this game is featured in almost every piece of promotional material. Blood is fuel. The only way to heal an ULTRAKILL is getting close to an enemy and damaging it so that it bleeds on you. This mechanic alone is what makes an enormous difference. In games like Dusk or Doom, health is an extremely limited resource that has to be topped off typically from just pickups around the map or rarely from enemies, creating a careful dance of choosing whether to get in the face of enemies and risking a quick death, or you could just keep your distance like a pussy. ULTRAKILL, however, still features a dance of keeping range and getting close, but you are heavily incentivized to be way closer to your enemies. Healing off of simply killing an enemy close to you allows you to pull off way riskier moves and still come out of it topped off on health. Now, in ULTRAKILL, you have two ways of beating a level. A, going slow, taking your time, and just playing it like a standard shooter, or B, the Jack Hooper way. The movement capabilities of V1 allow for super quick and precise movement around the arena while dodging and weaving enemies. Dashing, ground pounding, sliding, and wall jumping all feed into a sense of speed I really haven't felt in such an incredibly polished package. I think the part that ties it all together is how quick each of the movements are, with none of the movement options feeling sluggish or needing a huge startup to get going. The game also emphasizes verticality in its level designs, with things like all of the bounce pads littered around the map, and the way you can take off into the air with a grenade booster slam storage. All of these mechanics scream one thing: keep fucking moving.
Sure, recent Doom games can also have incredible amounts of speed while maneuvering through waves of enemies, but those games feel comparatively slow compared to ULTRAKILL. Doom Guy feels like he's taking a nice little stroll through the park, while V1 is Olympic sprinting at Mach 5 towards his next kill. Also, Doom Guy cannot slide, so... You also receive a grappling hook later in the game, which instantly improves your maneuverability by tenfold, allowing yourself to draw lighter enemies towards you, while drawing yourself towards heavier enemies. Also, it does not require your shotgun to be out to be able to use, so...
Each of the weapons also feels absolutely incredible to use, with some very unique mechanics for each weapon's variations. The hit-scan revolver has two modes: a piercing shot that can blast through multiple enemies, or the same enemy multiple times, and a coin toss that you can ricochet shots off of into enemies and dealing more damage than a normal shot. Not only that, but you get an alternate version of the revolver that converts it into a hand cannon, dealing twice the amount of damage but a much slower fire rate. Oh, and the piercing shot can ricochet off the coins. The shotgun has a pump mode and a grenade launcher mode. I think you can guess which one I use more. Also, you can do this shit. Now that's just plain cool. The nail gun is the game's only full auto weapon in the form of a minigun, featuring a magnum mode and an overheat mode, both of which work with each other to create a devastating hail of bullets on any unfortunately large target in its path.
While procrastinating on making this video, ULTRAKILL received an update the other day that added an alternate nail gun to the game. This thing is extremely fun to use. It's a buzzsaw launcher and it will absolutely clear a room of smaller enemies. However, I tend to prefer the default nail gun because it is much more effective in single target damage.
You also received the railgun, a sniper cannon that recharges between shots even when holstered. The variations also feature a drill and an explosive shot, the latter being useful for clearing out large groups of enemies that are just a bit too tough for the shotgun blast. Oh, and you can also ricochet the railgun shots off of revolver coins. Hey, currently editing Vance here. Forgot to mention the two arms. The feedbacker is quick and light with the ability to parry attacks, while the knuckle blaster is heavier but does way more damage and has high knockback. Also, you can do this. I tend to stick with the feedbacker because of parrying, but both can serve you pretty well. Now, the difference between games like Doom and ULTRAKILL is that I personally think that Doom has too many weapons and each has a super niche purpose for killing one specific enemy, and it only kinda works on other enemies. ULTRAKILL, you have a much smaller arsenal, but each one feels like you could take down an entire army with them alone. You can blast them, nail them, rail them, headshot them, and it really doesn't matter. That enemy is going down quick no matter what gun you use. Another mechanic featured a lot in its marketing is being a shooter with style. On the right side of your screen is a Devil May Cry style combo meter, with the more cool things you do increasing the rank of your combo and increasing the length of it. While you can just go through the game while killing enemies in the most basic and generic ways possible, the meter is there to provide a good reason for you to create your own combos and string some weapons together in order to provide the Tony Hawk Pro Skater first-person shooters. Now, what is there to actually shoot? Well, the enemies are hard-hitting and aggressive in both standard and violent difficulties. While the simple enemies are really nothing to write home about, the major enemies are interesting and very challenging to fight. The Malicious Face is a simple but effective turret that is hard to get near for weapons like the shotgun. The Swords Machine is fast and extremely aggressive with the shotgun and chainsaw sword, dealing insane amounts of damage to you if you aren't paying attention to them and maneuvering around their attacks. The Cerberus is a large target that can hit hard and can send you flying across the arena if you get too close. It also becomes even more dangerous in its enraged state, with very little breathing room to stay on the ground or even remotely close to it. Currently editing Vance here again. The Mind Flayer is certainly the most difficult major enemy to deal with, being able to teleport around the arena and send homing projectiles, use a giant fucking laser, and whip you to death. But the best enemies of this game are, of course, the bosses. Also, I'm only counting the boss enemies that show up once and never again in a later level down the line.
The first actual boss fight of ULTRAKILL is against the Hideous Mask. This thing took me more than a couple tries to beat, being one of the harder bosses in the game. Then, you have what I consider to be one of the greatest boss fights ever against your own greatest enemy, yourself. V2 is one of the hardest bosses I have ever fought against in a video game. Imagine a player playing the game while dashing to evade attacks, moving around the arena like a madman, and getting close for point-blank shotgun healing. Now imagine you're fighting that player, and that's pretty much how the V2 fight goes.
This singular boss fight is the greatest test of player skill I have ever seen in a video game. This fight basically asks you to understand each of your weapons and abilities and how to counter them. Movement is essential for this boss fight, not only to evade shots, but to get as close to V2 and to punish its attempt to point blank you with a grenade. This fight took me more attempts than I'd like to admit, but it was very well worth to beat. The Corpse of King Minos is a giant, towering beast that can crush you in one hand, and I really don't like this boss fight. Its attacks are extremely slow and easy to dodge, sometimes even clipping through you without even damaging you. It doesn't take many attempts to beat. However, I will admit that parrying its punches is immensely satisfying. The final boss of Act 1 is Gabriel, the Judge of Hell. Gabriel's attacks can also hit hard and fast if you aren't paying attention, usually coming in 3-round bursts. This fight places an emphasis on not trying to dodge his attacks, but rather parrying them, with most of his attacks being parryable. I mean, you can do that, or you can just brute force it with a shotgun and sliding, so...
What? How can this be? Blessed by this... It's fucking no, bro! This is not over!
As of recording this video, the final boss of ULTRAKILL is a rematch. V2 is back and better than ever, sporting an even bigger arsenal, more aggression, and his fancy new green arm, the Whiplash. This fight is also very, very good, but it also requires you to know your arsenal even more. His attacks are significantly more advanced, with better tracking on the piercing shot, delayed coin ricochets, and an overheat nail gun, which makes this fight much harder, but way better.
He doesn't get to escape again, however, and you get to chase him down while sliding down the side of a pyramid, creating a great conclusion to a rivalry that ends with no more V2 and you obtaining a grappling hook. Wait a fucking second. There are also plenty of secret encounters throughout the levels, with the first one being an early swords machine fight. My personal favorite secret fight is the mysterious druid Night and Owl. I'll leave you to discover what this is a reference to. So, what other content does ULTRAKILL have? Well, each layer has its own secret level that I'm not going to spoil too much, so I'll just say, the first one makes me shit my pants, the second one gives me PTSD, the third one makes me want to vomit, and the fourth one makes me very, very angry. The game also features a sandbox mode where you can summon pretty much any enemy you've encountered so far, as well as just being fun to mess around in. Oh god damn it. The game also features an endless mode, the cyber grind. This is without a doubt my favorite thing about this game. Every wave changes the shape of the arena, allows for a lot of customization, including custom arena layouts, custom images on the arena, and custom skyboxes. Cybergrind is also just the best song in the soundtrack. I mean, just listen to this shit.
Anyways, that's all that ULTRAKILL has to offer for now as of recording this video. The game is still currently in development, with Layer 5 being actively worked on right now, which I am very excited to see come out. If you have 20 bucks on Steam, or if it goes on sale for even cheaper than that, buy the game. It's worth every single damn penny of your greasy Steam wallet.